it's all going to zero against Bitcoin.
It's going up forevermore.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yo, welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live, your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, card breaking news, culture, manic warfare. We'll be your guide through the separation of money and state. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Simply Bitcoin. Sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. If you're watching us on YouTube, Rumble, or X, hey guys, welcome to Simply Bitcoin. Anyways, lots to talk about today. We have the author of Sapiens, Yuval Harari, who's part of the World Economic Forum, the Party of Davos class, basically trying to FUD Bitcoin, basically making the case that he doesn't like Bitcoin because it's a currency of mistrust, and that he would like to see the world continue to use currencies of trust, and that the last century somehow proved that that was a good idea. Like, talking about gaslighting, I think that it's the exact opposite that is true. But it also tells me that we're winning, because then I don't think that they would feel as desperate as that than to say that, right? So I'm going to play you guys the clip of that. The political battle in the U.S. seems to be heating up, like we started to cover last week, but it's looking like it's a bit divisive, and I would say that I think it's a losing battle for any party to take an anti-Bitcoin stance. So we're going to get you a lot of takes from different people. And also, it seems like Ron Wyden and Senator Cynthia Lummis, the Bitcoin senator, wrote a letter in this regard. So we're covering that as well. And then I think the really big news of today, another historic milestone. We covered this when the news broke, but essentially El Salvador made their Bitcoin treasury public, right? Nayib Bukele went on Bitcoin Twitter and he said, look, this is the address of our treasury. Well, there's a website that was just launched. I think it was Mempool, actually, that just launched a specific URL to cover that deposit address. So you'll see how they're stacking every single day. And now it's, public for the world to see. Anyone could audit El Salvador's reserves. And this is in stark contrast to how essentially the gold reserves work, right? Fort Knox, which was built after the 6102 order, that hasn't been, I mean, they say it's audited every year, but the public hasn't actually seen any gold in Fort Knox since, I think, the 1970s. So they only showed one vault in the 1970s. So it's like, you have to take the government's word for it that they do have all that gold that they said they do, that they, stole from American citizens. So you kind of have to take the government's word for it. Like, it's the opposite of don't trust, don't trust, verify. It's kind of like trust us, don't verify. And I'll echo what I said many months ago when this news first dropped. Any country that is criticizing El Salvador, you have absolutely no legs to stand on. You have no right to lecture El Salvador what they should do until you make your reserves public. Until then, you're just LARPing. You're trying to use moral virtue. You're trying to come from a place of superiority to try to dictate to this Central American country what they should do and what they should do, what direction they should go by. Look, until you make your gold reserves public, I'm sorry, guys, I'm not going to listen to you. And I remember when this happened, I said, look, the world's never going to be the same. And then a lot of people are like, why is that, Nico? Well, look, when you make your reserves public, it makes it a lot easier. It makes it a lot harder to steal from it, right? If everyone could verify what's going on with El Salvador's reserves and, it's there for the world to see, then, you can't just, take some from the top and put it in your pocket. I'm not trying to insinuate anything, but it is a little strange to me that we haven't, gone back since the 1970s to see if that gold is in the vault in Fort Knox. And it's just kind of like, trust me, bro, type of thing. So anyways, it's going to be a great show. Lots to talk about. And of course, we have a very special guest. We have Nate Martin, fellow Bitcoiner. Hey man, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, Nico. I really appreciate it.
And of course, my legendary host, who is always optimistic. He has a semi-smile today. How you doing, Opti? Opti got a haircut, looks like, as well.
I didn't get a haircut. I just I didn't comb it really, so it looks like I got a haircut. I'm not wearing a hat. All right, don't worry about my hair. It doesn't matter about my hair. We're here about Bitcoin content. So I really just want to. Yeah, you know, I got a haircut. No, I really am excited for today's culture because, like, first of all, I mean, Nico just brought up everything, and I think at this point I can just do one of these, you know, like
You're against Bitcoin. You're against freedom.
the fact that Yuval Harari of the world and them don't like Bitcoin just makes me know that we are on the right path with Bitcoin. But we'll get all that in the news and the numbers and stuff. I'm really excited for today's culture with Nate because he's a fellow content creator. We know how hard it is to make content, and formerly at 99 Bitcoins. And today we're going to get all the tea. We're going to get the whole backstory. I think people are going to really enjoy this and really double down on the idea of this, the importance of making Bitcoin only content, which we literally live and die by. So this is going to be a great show today, Nico.
Absolutely. Guys, if you're enjoying the show so far and you want to help us push the orange signal on the algos, make sure to smash that like button. It tells YouTube to push this content forward. And if you guys are watching us on Rumble and X, it applies as well. Smash that like button. The end of the week, we're going to be in Canada for the Canadian Bitcoin conference. We're going to be live streaming from the floor. We're also going to be live streaming the entire conference from the channel as well. So really looking forward to that, guys. We have an entire week ahead of us, full packed of Bitcoin content. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. All right, everybody, let's start the show. Here we go. Before we do that, I do want to give a very special shout out to the Bitcoin company that powers this show. And of course, I'm talking about Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is the best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. It is a self-custody by default Bitcoin on-ramp. What does that mean? That means that you can't buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well unless you're going to take self-custody, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos of the separation of money and state. Future-proof your money, support self-custody by default Bitcoin on-ramps, because after all, the revolution is self-custody. Visit bitcoinwell.com/simply today. Go check out the site. It's really, really clean, absolutely beautiful. Buy real Bitcoin. Obviously, you put in your email, you get started, and the process is incredibly easy to just start stacking Bitcoin. It's a clear, transparent 1% spread. Obviously, it's Bitcoin only, and I can't emphasize this enough, especially in the next 5 to 10 years, especially with how much they're attacking self-custody and demonizing it. It's a non-custodial platform. It's incredibly important, especially with what's to come. So guys, go to bitcoinwell.com today and start stacking those sats. All right, everybody, let's hit the numbers. Here we go.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stamp Seed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stamp Seed. All right, everybody, I made it incredibly easy for you guys. You could scan the QR code on your screen right now. I'll take you directly to the Stamp Seed website where you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off. Don't put yourself in a situation where you have to explain to your grandchildren why you lost your Bitcoin. Stamp your seed phrase on titanium. Use promo code SIMPLY. Check out Stamp Seed today. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 63,280. Block height, 843,309. Sats per dollar, 1,581. Market cap, 1.25 trillion. Bitcoin priced in gold, 27.1 ounces. Bitcoin versus gold market cap, 7.77%. Percentage issued, 93.79%. Decline from all-time high, 14.2%. Forward monetary inflation, 0.85%. Realized monetary inflation, 1.68%. In the grand scheme of things, we are just getting started. Anyways, TFTC, Marty Bent dropping the hot fire. This was his original tweet from Bitcoin Twitter. And I believe that the BIS is the Bank of International Settlements Innovation Summit. I would say that banks and central banks and all these institutions, I think they're on the polar opposite of innovation. I think they're incentivized because they're just trying to protect their moat. They're like the horse and buggy. They're like the horse and buggy people, talking s about cars. They're like, when electricity was first rolled out, it's like the oil and gas companies, because that's how people used to see, right? It was like literally like gas powered lanterns and all that stuff. And they're bashing electricity. Like I get it. The established players, like, they don't want to get like rooted out. I understand. But you have to, if you want to see what someone's about, like take a look at their incentives, right? It's just funny how they just rolled out this like well-known author who wrote this book called Sapiens, that he's a regular at the Container Conference, aka the World Economic Forum. They just roll him out and they just, they ask him a question and his answer was just absolutely insane. Let's check out the clip.
Are you playing it, Nika? Because I'm not seeing anything.
Oh, yeah. Let me try that one more time. Here we go.
When I look at Bitcoin as a historian, I don't like it because this is a money built on distrust. The central idea of Bitcoin is basically electronic gold, that we don't trust the banks, the governments, so we don't want to give them the ability to create as much money as they like. So we create this Bitcoin. It's a currency of distrust. I do think that the future belongs to electronic money, but what we've seen over the last centuries is that it's actually a good idea to give banks and governments the ability to create more and more money in order to build more trust within society. So I'm not sure what money would look like in 20 years or 30 years, but I hope it will be a currency of greater trust and not a currency of distrust.
I mean, like the reason that Bitcoin was invented in the first place, the reason that people are seeking an alternative in the first place is because of how much governments betrayed that trust, right? Bitcoin wouldn't exist if they didn't betray that trust, right? And it's crazy, the part where he's basically saying that, like, the last century has shown that it was a good idea to give governments this power over the people. Like the two world wars, the Great Recession, the Great Depression, like, how does it inspire trust in people when you debase their savings, when you debase, their purchasing power, and you debase their energy? Like, that is absolutely crazy. If you want to take a look at a definition of gaslighting, this video will literally pop up. But again, it tells me that we're winning. And the reason that I'm saying that is because they wouldn't be talking about Bitcoin at their summit if they just didn't see that people were seeking it as an alternative. And the other thing also is, like, I don't care if you're a historian, right? The free market is going to decide. Like, you don't have to coerce someone into using Bitcoin. They're incentivized to use Bitcoin because it's just better money. And like, they're approaching it from like a position of like the central planners. You're like, oh, we know what's best for everyone. We know what money everyone should be using. You don't have to worry about that. We'll make the decision for you. Like, it's like, no, bro, like, the individuals are going to make that decision for themselves. And I think, the central banking class or the political class, they don't understand that. They can't comprehend that very idea. They don't understand it. They can't comprehend it. They can't think of a world where they can't coerce people into doing what they want, right? And the awesome part about Bitcoin is that you can't stop the signal. Like, you can't stop millions upon millions of individuals all over the world running their own nodes, writing down a 12-word seed phrase, and so just saying, like, look, like, I'm going to store my energy, my time, my work into a money that doesn't debase, into a money that doesn't steal from me, right? And, and they're going to pull out all the stops, and they're going to try to tell you everything and anything for you not to do that. Right. And I was making a joke about this like 2 years ago. And I was like, look, like how long until they say, self-custody is a threat to national security? Fast forward a couple years later, that's exactly what they're saying. But how are you going to say that? Like, how are you going to convince me that writing down 12 words is somehow dangerous to society? You know what it is? It's dangerous to your grift. It's dangerous to the status quo. You can't convince me otherwise at this point. And I would say more people day by day wake up to the reality of Bitcoin. And I would say that more people day by day wake up to the fraud that is fiat currencies, and they can't address it. They can't comprehend as to why people are seeking an alternative. If governments did not betray the trust of debasing the currency, if governments did not betray that, I don't think Bitcoin would exist. Right? Like in the Genesis block, it literally says chance are on the brink of the second bailout for banks. Right? Like it literally says it, like the reason as to why Bitcoin was invented in the first place. So no, I think we should live in a world of less trust, more verify, and do the exact polar opposite of what this guy is recommending. And thank God that, historians don't have any influence on whether people adopt Bitcoin or not. I would say more than historians, I don't think anyone has influence on that. I just think it's Bitcoin has superior incentives, and that's why it's going to win. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on all this, brother?
Man, Yuval Harari. First of all, I'm not a fan of him, so you could take that with the context of what I'm going to say afterwards. But this guy, like Nico said, this is a perfect example of gaslighting, or rather, as a Bitcoiner, we have the meme, don't trust, verify. Like, because you guys have destroyed your trust, we don't trust you. And what do you say? Like, Bitcoin is a currency based on distrust. It's like, no, we've eliminated having to trust anyone. We verify things for ourselves. And that's why it's a superior currency or rather a superior money, because the stuff we're using now, it's literally trust us, bro. We know what we're doing. We're gonna manipulate the economy. We're gonna manipulate currency, and we got your best interest in mind. And it's like, no, we don't have to play that game anymore. And that's why we're Bitcoiners, is because we fundamentally don't trust you. Your system's based on trust. You've abused that trust. So we've eliminated that single point of failure. We don't have to trust anyone. It's not a currency or a money based on distrust. It's basically a money based on a don't trust, verify for yourself. And this is how you know that you are using the best money in the world. So I absolutely love that they're trying to gaslight us at the Bank of International Settlements Innovation Summit. Just the irony there is incredible, and the amount of double speak there is incredible. And let's not forget that Yuval Harari is the guy who's famous for saying that, in a few years, there's going to be way too many useless eaters, aka humans, and we got to figure out a way to control them. Or the other famous meme of him is the idea that, humans are just wholly programmable. We know exactly how to brainwash them so that they do exactly what we want them to do. And here we are. We're like, yo, bro, like, you're either on team human or you are anti-human. And I know what side Yuval Harari is on. He's on the anti-human side. And as we say all the time, it is Bitcoin or to slavery. If he's coming out, especially at the Bank of International Settlements Innovation Summit, if he's coming out against Bitcoin, well, what does that inherently mean? It means he is pro CBDC, and he even said it in that clip. It's like, I don't know what the future of money will be, but I think it's going to be digital. So do you want a digital money that they can control every one of your human behaviors, or a money that they can't control, where you don't have to trust them, where all you have to do is verify for yourself that the money works? I've made my choice. It's very simple. It is Bitcoin, and Yuval Harari can have his CBDC. I'm okay with that. Like, have fun with your CBDC, bro, but you're not going to convince me otherwise that it's not Bitcoin.
Great take, Opti. Great take. Nate, what's your take on this, bro? Wow, Opti.
Listen, the only
you can
people
tell I
that
don't
should
like
have-
Yuval Harari.
That was a good one.
A little bit. Listen, the only person I should have to trust in a transaction is you. I shouldn't have to worry as to whether or not the money that I'm using for that transaction is being controlled by somebody else. And that's the crux of the issue. And I'm listening to this. I'm glad I was fasting this morning because I about threw up. I didn't want to have. It was just horrible. And he's saying all these things. Distrust was the wrong word, and like you said, he's just totally gaslighting us. But for us to be able to trust the money, we have to know that it's not going to be changed, or that it's extremely difficult to change. And that's what Bitcoin has written in its protocol. And I'm sorry, but when he says it should be based on trust, no, I think he mispronounced the word control. Let's be honest about this. What they're looking to do is control us. And if you look at the CBDCs that are already in place, are already being looked at as an opportunity for these countries to control their people. They've already stopped people from being able to buy things based on the pandemic that happened 3 years ago, and I don't know even whether I can say that on this, but whether or not you got a stick in your arm as to whether or not you can go buy groceries. They've already tried that, and that was the experiment. And now we know that the next experiment is the money. Well, I'm not going to be part of that. I'm going to use the money that you and I agree is something that isn't going to change. And so the value that you give me and the value that I give you, we can trust that between each other without having to worry about somebody else.
Beautiful. And I think that's, and I think you hit the nail on the head there, Nate. I would say that's the part that pisses them off. I would say that's the part that drives them crazy, is the fact that they don't have that coercive forcing function, right? And I think it their totalitarianness just exposes, they have little Freudian slips here and there, because what he's saying is just it's so beyond absurd that, and especially he calls himself a historian. And I can't help to think, reference the Ron Paul quote, right? It's not a coincidence that the century of central banking is the bloodiest century in human history. Him being a historian, you would think that him out of all people would know the fundamental, know that fiat enabled this endless war, this death machine. And he's just completely unaware of that. I would say that he's not a historian. He's a propagandist for the central bankers. That's really what he is. I can't, you can't come to another conclusion. You can't be I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He went so far to the other side and say we should trust governments more. Look, we can't say that, what you said, Nate, but we'll say that the last 5 years has definitely shown some things that I would say don't really motivate people to trust their governments more, to put it very nicely and gently. I think it's the exact opposite of what he's saying. Thank God for Bitcoin. I don't know what we would do without Bitcoin at this point. I think that these would be very dark times. With Bitcoin, I see hope. Where before I think I would see, could you imagine what we went through as a society in the last 10 years and Bitcoin didn't exist? It would be horrific, right? I would have no capability of having any type of idea of what my future would be like. And I think Opti would fit into that category with me as well. And if you're a Gen Zer, you're a serf. You're a Russian serf. You're literally you can't. You'll own nothing and be happy. They're even telling you what they think, right? So, what's your take on that, Nate?
Well, there's so much to unpack there. First of all, your penchant for diploma speak is noteworthy. Well done. But it really does all come back down. I'm almost kind of. And you say, what would happen if Bitcoin didn't exist? And the fact of the matter is, we would have how many millions of people, and we're just talking about North America, because that's where our markets are. How many millions of people wouldn't have asked themselves the question over the last 15 years, what is money and what makes it good? Just the fact that Bitcoin has opened people's eyes to the fact that money has been created specifically in 1971 out of thin air, and we're supposed to rely on the full faith and credit of the United States. Well, I'm sorry, I don't trust the government, and we never should have, especially after Nixon pulled the rug. Once that happened, everybody should have been asking themselves, what are we really spending? What are we making? What are we trading our value for, our ideas and our labor? What are we trading that for? Because if it's just a piece of paper that the government says has value, we should be questioning that. We should be questioning that hard. So, that's the one thing about Bitcoin that I think has been the most beneficial, other than the asset itself, is that people are beginning to ask the question, what is money and what does that really mean for my value and my family's value in the future?
100%. I completely agree with that. And I think that's going to be the question of the decade. What is money the next 5-10 years? And it's really the responsibility of Bitcoin content creators and just Bitcoiners in general. Just get people to just make that your goal. Like, don't attack their politics. Don't attack their ideologies. Just get them to ask the question, what is money? Bitcoin will literally take care of the rest. You don't have to do anything, right? So anyways, before we move on to the news, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor. Shout out to Anders. And guys, you have to check out the Pleb Party in Nashville. It's going to be absolutely epic. It's a 12-hour open bar from noon to midnight. And it's going to be hosted the day before the largest Bitcoin conference in the USA, Thursday, July 25th. So if you're already going to the Bitcoin 2024 conference in Nashville, you have to come to the Pleb Party. Most likely all your friends are going to be there. And remember, the one last time in Miami, which was absolutely epic, sold out 8 days before the conference. So what happened in Miami was essentially they were sold out. They were literally stopping people at the door. So you want to get your tickets before that happens. Confirmed attendees so far include Larry Lepard, Preston Pish, the entire Simply crew will be there. Nico, Sophie, Opti, Rustin, James Lavish, Robert Breedlove, Mark Moss, Pubby, Tatum Turnup. It's going to be an amazing venue, a rustic automobile factory from 1910 with brick walls and tons of proof of work atmosphere. Over 1,000 Bitcoin plebs are expected. You don't want to miss the Nashville Pleb Bitcoin Party. So scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. It's going to be a great time. All right, everybody, let's move on to news. Here we go.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. All right, everybody. I made it incredibly easy for you guys like always. You could scan the QR code. It'll take you directly to the Foundation Devices website where you guys get yourself a Passport Bitcoin hardware wallet. Remember, not your keys, not your cheese. You want to take self-custody, and the Passport by Foundation Devices makes it incredibly easy to do just that. If you pair it up with the Envoy app, it makes spending Bitcoin from cold storage incredibly easy. So check out the Passport by Foundation Devices. You can scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. All right, everybody, quick update on this. This is going to continue to get more heated as time progresses, just because it is an election year and now it's become an election topic. Unfortunately, it's become somewhat partisan, and we're going to get to the consequences of that and some of the reactions from the community in regards to that. So last week, I guess in case you guys have missed it, Donald Trump came out and said, if you were to elect me for president, I would basically, not go after quote unquote crypto, to use his words. And of course, the Biden administration has been incredibly hostile towards the industry, the proposed 30% tax, right? The attack on self-custody, the arrest of certain Bitcoin privacy developers. So yeah, so many things have happened, and now it's become an election topic, unfortunately, because obviously as Bitcoiners, we would want this to remain bipartisan, and because it is a neutral technology, right? So anyways, before I get to that, here's Troy Cross, and he says, special thanks to my Senator Ron Wyden for his principled support of the rule of law and protection of fundamental freedoms. And Senator Cynthia Lummis involved in there as well. So it was a letter from Senators Lummis and Ron Wyden to the DOJ regarding the DOJ's recent arguments to expand their interpretation of what constitutes a money transmission business. So it goes on to say, Dear General Gardlin, we write to express our grave concerns regarding the DOJ's recent policy arguments to dramatically expand the scope of the federal prohibition on operating an unlicensed money transmission business. The DOJ's unprecedented interpretation of this statute in the context of non-custodial crypto asset software services. And that's the key word, ladies and gentlemen. You have to pay attention. You have to pay attention to when they bury the lead. That's the lead right there. Is that what they're trying to do is they're trying to basically say that if you operate a software wallet or a type like because that's essentially where they're going with this, that doesn't have KYC, that doesn't have AML, that is somehow against the law, right? That's essentially what they're trying to do. And you have to look at the lawfare. You have to look at the little steps, the little baby steps that they took to get here, right? They didn't start with Samurai first. They started with Tornado Cash. No one really knew what Tornado Cash was. No one really used it, right? It was not popular. And they basically said that Tornado Cash was enabling money laundering for North Korea. Coin Center sued them. A lot of people fought back, but they lost those lawsuits. And then the federal government basically made it precedent that open source software can be used as, to launder money. And and they set a precedent. Less than a year later, it's like roughly 9 months, they arrested the Samurai Wallet guys, right? Basically, without having to pass any type of legislation, the US government made it illegal to use coin mixing in the United States. No legislation passed. It was just via enforcement. And then everyone else got spooked, right? So Wasabi stopped offering the service. Obviously, they put the Samurai guys in jail. They're fighting that. One of the guys was released on bail. But that's what I want you guys to pay attention to, is that that might not seem as much, but you have to understand that it's little baby steps that are taken, precedents that are set. And then before you know it, 4 years from now, they'll say, you can't download Electrum and you can't download Sparrow because they don't have KYC, because they don't, protect against, they don't enforce sanction laws here in the United States. You can't download those wallets. And because that's unenforceable, you actually just can't withdraw from exchanges, full stop. Like, that is clearly where they're going with this. And this is why this election, and I tweeted this out, and maybe it was slightly out of the Overton window, is consequential in that sense, because you have Biden, the Biden administration in one corner, and then you have RFK Jr. and Trump in the other corner. And they're both basically saying, like, we'll protect, specifically RFK said this at the Bitcoin conference, I'll protect your right to self-custody. And obviously I won't go after the industry. And on the other opposite, it's like, not only am I going to attack your right to self-custody, we're actually going to, we're going to push forward these central bank digital currencies as well. Right. So, yeah, I mean, and again, like, I think that they have this very small window to roll this out, because I think that by 2028, I don't think you're going to be able to take an anti-Bitcoin stance politically. I just don't think that. And regardless of party, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I don't think you're going to be able to take that stance because of the percentage of the population that hold Bitcoin. Right. Like, so I think that they're just trying to shove this down everyone's throats as fast as humanly possible. Now, here's Pierre Richard. He is the VP of research at Riot. And he says, it's not an exaggeration. Biden's DOJ is trying to criminalize peer-to-peer Bitcoin transactions and self-custody, unhinged authoritarianism. Here is Ryan Selkis, and he says, Liz Warren and Joe Biden made crypto a political issue, not the crypto community. radical policies aimed to ban or severely cripple an industry that enshrines American constitutional values into the global financial system will lead to backlash. And again, and here, this person has a really good comment. This is something that we saw on last week's episode as well. And he said, look, in this case, is crypto Twitter was already depressing lately, and now you guys infuse politics discussions into it. And that's essentially what happened last week. Like, we crossed that. Like, we crossed that line. And unfortunately, I said this last week. I'm like, look, like, this is the separation of money and state. It inevitably was going to go down this route. This was inevitable. This was always going to happen. And politics are very uncomfortable for a lot of people because it involves discussing the top echelons of power where morality completely goes out the window. I totally get that. But we didn't make this political. We didn't take a stance as a community, the Republican Party or whatever. They didn't take a stance. It's, you have the executive branch being hostile towards the industry, and there's consequences to that. Wallet of Satoshi pulled out. Phoenix Wallet pulled out. A lot of Bitcoin Lightning development companies are like, I don't know if I could set up shop here in the United States. Shout out to Zeus though for holding the line. So yeah, I mean, that's my take on everything. Is that like we didn't make this political. They did, right? And like, what are you going to do? Like, are you just going to sit on the sidelines and observe? And like I always say this, Opti, are we just going to leave? Like, that could be an option too, right? But what if you don't want to leave? What if you don't have the means to leave? So if you don't have the means to leave, then are you just going to sit there, right, when the election happens, and then there's candidates on one side that support a certain, subject or issue, and then there's candidates on the other side that don't? Like, it's unfortunate that it's gotten to this point, but it's the reality of it. Anyways, I'm going to pass it on to Nate and then Opti.
You start talking politics and you expect me not to go after that? That's a and I'll stay as neutral as I possibly can, but no. But
I'm really glad that you said that. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Okay, can we though at this point? Because it's like we have gone above and beyond to the point where free Opti, right? That we have gone above and beyond to stay quote unquote neutral in the traditional political tropes. Like, we are not taking a side as much as we can. But the moment they put one of us in a box, you cannot deny that voting for these two guys is better than voting for this other guy purely from a Bitcoin regulatory sense. You cannot deny that. It's undeniable. I don't think politics, the traditional political issues, have anything to do with what I just said.
No, you're right. And the thing is that we didn't pick this fight. You said it already. We didn't pick this fight. There was a need for control of Bitcoin as soon as it was evident that the Bitcoin protocol was going to continue to grow. It was no longer killable. It has grown to the point where it can't be stopped. Once that's happened, they had to try to figure out how to exert control. And the thing is that one country can't do it, even one like the United States, because Bitcoin is international. It supersedes borders. It doesn't matter. And I take a look at this. It's totally unenforceable. This ban on self-custody, or this attempt to do so, because if you have a self-custody wallet that doesn't have KYC, well, then where is it? Who owns it? Who controls it? You don't know. So how is it that you in the United States, or as the United States, can try to enforce a law when you have no idea where that wallet acquired its Bitcoin? Yeah, that's ridiculous. But these are the fights that they're literally throwing haymakers, and they have no target to hit. There's just nowhere to go. But going back to the question, is that no, we cannot stay neutral. We really can't. When you take a look at what has been said, what has been written, and the policies that are being made, and the lawsuits that are being filed, you have to take a side. And it's unfortunate that we have to say that, but we're at that point, and there's no getting around it.
100%. Like it's like, we've tried this so hard. We've gone above and beyond to not get trapped in that. It is an election year after all, but it's undeniable at this point. And I saw a lot of people get upset. A lot of people got upset. They're like, no, Like I can't, we can't vote for Trump or we can't vote for whatever. And I'm like, I get it from the, the traditional things that the traditional arguments or the traditional, stances that these politicians are taking. Like, okay, you might feel very strongly about a certain sense, but I think what I would say is like, look at the bigger picture. I think Bitcoin over the long term makes politics irrelevant. I think it's our job in order to get us to that point, right? So it's like one candidate is not going to get us closer to that finish line. The other two candidates are going to get us closer to that finish line. If you look at it purely from that standpoint, I think it's incredibly obvious what needs to be done, right? I also want to give a shout out to the super chat from Martin. Thank you for the 50 euros, man. Really appreciate it. Opti, what's your take on all this, brother? And we'll move on to the El Salvador news.
Yeah, so I mean, first and foremost, just pointing out the obvious, Bitcoin is apolitical money, so it supersedes left and right, conundrum. It supersedes the dichotomy of left and right, which means that it's probably the most political money out there because it is apolitical, because it doesn't fall on any one side of the camp. Of course, people on both sides of the camp are going to feel a certain way about it. And so before I started to, follow politics, just basically to be informed on what's going on in the show, I was always just apolitical. I always say it every single time, like I'm probably the least political person ever. And that's why I love Bitcoin, is because it's apolitical money. Bitcoin is for anyone. And if you see the value in Bitcoin, then you'll start to understand what we talk about: a money that cannot be debased, a money that isn't controlled by a single person, a money that is completely global, yet not controlled by any single person. To me, that has value. Something that is completely neutral has value. But with that all being said, like Nate and Nico are saying, it is becoming very obvious that one side is framing themselves against Bitcoin and the other side is framing themselves pro Bitcoin. And if you're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom. And if you are against Bitcoin, then you inherently are pro CBDC. And knowing where that goes into the future, basically leading us down into a digital dystopia, a tyrannical world controlled by a digital money that is programmable, that literally they can shut you off, that has expiration dates. I don't know about you, but anyone that is actively fighting Bitcoin, as we always say, is actively against freedom. And I don't want any part of a world where they can control every aspect of my behavior with their money. And that is where people are setting themselves up right now. And personally, that should terrify you and that should make all your decisions for you. If you're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom. Bitcoin is the way that we are leading towards a more prosperous future. And anyone that is fighting against Bitcoin, I think I've said this before, if you're against Bitcoin, I go further than just Nico. Not only are you against freedom, but you are you are actively anti-human. I think Bitcoin, even though it's a digital electronic money, it's software, like Bitcoin is pro-human values. And it's about a future where you consensually trade with people peer-to-peer. We all basically respect each other enough where we're not trying to steal from each other. And it just seems like a way better economic system. And so if you're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom. And I don't want to hear any of these virtue signaling of, oh, Bitcoin is bad because of X. It's like, no, you don't understand what Bitcoin is. And if you're fighting Bitcoin, then you're fighting humanity. And I don't want any part of that.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Also, shout out to the 1,040 of you guys watching us between YouTube and X, and shout out to 50 or so watching us on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying the show, make sure to smash that like button. See, we're already getting some people in the chat, right, referencing, the current political arguments right now. We have Mike in the chat. We have Johan kind of going back and forth. Guys, what I would say is, like, you guys are looking at it from the traditional political sense. I would say zoom out, and like we said in the beginning of the show, it's like literally in our ethos, right? The separation of money and state. That's what we're homed in on, right? I think over time, Bitcoin, for making the world better, also is going to make politics irrelevant. So our mind is set on, how do we separate money from state? How do we enable this? What candidates are going to enable that? I think everything else is noise. Like you're getting stuck in the divide and conquer rhetoric and messaging that they're using. Anyways, moving on to the El Salvador news. So I love to talk about Fort Knox because It literally was built to house all the gold that they stole. I'm using that word. That's right. That they stole with the 6102 order. They literally built a fort surrounded by this giant fence and these security cameras and machine guns and all that. It's literally in a military base. And apparently that's where all the gold is housed. Well, no one has seen that gold since the 1970s, right? Which is just interesting. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because something happened with here is like one of the last pictures, I believe. This is like one of the and they only were allowed to visit one vault, right? And there was a bunch of other vaults, but they were only allowed to visit one vault. And this was like one of the pictures that they took, right? Or one of the videos that they took. That's it. There really isn't more proof than that, right? So it's like the exact opposite. It is like, it reminds me of this video with Harari. It's like, no, I want you guys to trust me. The gold is there. It's okay. Well, I would hate Bitcoin too, because Bitcoin enables this. And this is why the launch of this website was so historic. But essentially, for anyone who's not in the know, El Salvador made their Bitcoin reserves completely public. So you can check, you can go use your block explorer of your choice. You can look up that address and you'll see it's not there. All the Bitcoin is there. And you could see them stacking every single day, like, Nayib Bukele said they would, right? So, they launched their own proof of reserve website, and it's completely open. It's completely open for anyone to verify, and the $360 million in Bitcoin are there. And now compare this with the so-called gold reserves that the U.S. has had. We haven't seen it since the 1970s, the last video. They say they audit it every year, but it's the exact opposite of this. So yeah, I see why people like Harari and, the World Economic Forum class would be frustrated, because we don't trust you anymore. Not only do we not trust you anymore, it's even worse. Now it's even worse for them. There's an example of a system where we don't have to trust, we can verify ourselves. So it's like not only are we highlighting the fact that they've abused the trust, but we're also highlighting the fact that now there's a system that doesn't require trust. Just like a 1-2 metaphorical punch, right? So yeah, I would feel that way if I was Harari too. I would feel that way if I was a central banker. I would feel that way if I was the US government. You'd have to ask yourself, why are all these attacks happening? Why is the right to self-custody being attacked? Well, you can't get away with a 6102 order and put all this Bitcoin in a vault if you have millions upon millions of individuals taking self-custody. The reason that they were able to get away with this in the first place is because of the centralization of the custody of gold. But if you have millions of people taking self-custody all around the world, good luck, bro. And then it becomes a forcing function. Then things actually change. And this is where El Salvador is leading the charge, basically saying oh, you guys are going to morally grandstand and try to lecture us on how we should and should not do things. Well, you know what? We're going to 4D check you guys, and we're going to make our country's reserves completely public for the world to see. And that stops politicians taking some off the top and putting it in their pockets, right? It literally makes corruption somewhat impossible. That's a very strong word, but I'm going to say it. How are you going to get away with that? It's complete accountability, 100%. It's there. Everyone can see it. You cannot hide this shit, right? You cannot hide the fact that one Bitcoin is going to go missing and stuff, right? Is that gold really there at Fort Knox? If it was there, why don't they show it to us? That's the question for you guys. If that gold was really there, why don't they show it to us? Why haven't they shown it to us since the 1970s? Where is the gold? Right? So if I see any member of the U.S. government or, the national security apparatus criticize El Salvador, like they have been over the last couple of years, right? You guys have nothing to stand on. You can't lecture El Salvador on democracy, right? You can't lecture El Salvador on its economic decisions. You can't lecture El Salvador on its decisions on how to deal with crime, even though they want to. Hashtag the Economist wrecked over the weekend. You guys can't do that anymore. And it drives you guys crazy. I know it does. This is why Harari did what he did. He's like, God, they don't even have a response at this point, which is like the best part. It's like the cherry on top. They don't even bother arguing with you. They're just like, we can't argue because we don't have the facts on our side. So we're just going to say, trust us. And if you don't trust us, you're consuming misinformation and you're an extremist. Like, it's getting to that point, right? So like I would say is like one of Bitcoin's favorite properties to me is that it exposes incentives. Let them keep exposing themselves for who they are, to the point that they're going to have to admit over time, and they're admitting this, but kind of like indirectly, they're going to have to admit that they want everyone to use not only a currency that they completely control and surveil, but also a currency that steals from you. Not only do you have to pay income tax, you also have to use a currency that steals your purchasing power. Good luck trying to explain that away, which is why you don't even bother at this point, which is why you send out an author on stage and say, hey, try to convince people that Bitcoin is bad. It's like, you guys did that. You guys created the mistrust. Bitcoin was a reaction to the mistrust that you guys created. We, the people, trusted you, the government, to correctly deal with money. And what you guys did is enriched yourselves, bail out your buddies at the cost of the rest of society. And Bitcoin is a silent protest and saying enough is enough. Fuck your money. It's absolutely terrible. I'm sorry that you guys expected that the entire system was always going to rely on intermediaries. Like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we found a sly roundabout way. That's not my problem. That's yours, right? We didn't sign up to this. I don't think we've agreed to this. The fact that we have to use the money that steals from us. So yeah, I mean, good luck trying to, support your perspective in the next 5 to 10 years as more and more people wake up. And I think a lot of people are going to be very upset when they realize the scam that is fiat. And, it's game over for politicians and the endless wars that they support. Opti, what's your take on this?
Yeah, well, I really like Bitstein's tweet about this. We've covered this for about a month, and we saw this going out. And right now, they made a nice, fancy, user experience. Just a website that tracks the Bitcoin address. But when this came out the other day, Bitstein responded to an OG Bitcoiner. He's like, now El Salvador is the only civilized country in the world. Like Nico just did an epic rant on. They're the only country in the world that is transparent with their reserves. And until other countries catch up to what El Salvador is doing, then like Nico was saying, we don't have to pay attention to what they're talking about in regards to El Salvador. They're the only ones that are transparent in regards to what their reserves are. And, call me a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, but I just don't think the gold's in Fort Knox. You guys could troll me all you want. I know that's outside the Overton window, but they probably spent all that gold.
Is it though, dude?
I think for normies, it might be.
But like, bro,
it's very logical in my world. But hey, what do I know?
Where's the gold? Where's the gold?
Where's the gold?
Where's the gold? Honestly, if any time they attack El Salvador, I'm just put where's the gold?
Where's the gold?
Where's the gold? like Nate, they stole that shit. Didn't they?
Gone.
I know that was a lead question, but like they definitely stole that.
Well, listen, they've stolen it twice. I mean, and to your point, and you said this, we trusted the government. No, we didn't. We never did. The government made us trust them. It's like, we're going to take your gold, 1933. We're going to keep it in Fort Knox. Sure you are. And then we're going to not honor the paper that France and other countries had that said, hey, we've got your gold and you can come and take it anytime that you want to. Not anymore. We never trusted the government. We were sold a bill of goods from the beginning. And so that being the case, we have to have a money that doesn't include you now. I'm sorry, we don't buy it. And somebody wrote in the comments, governments need transparency. Well, the only thing right now that's transparent on the government is that the king's not wearing any clothes. We now know it's not true. You're out there naked as a jaybird, and we can see it. And the only person that doesn't see it is you.
Yep, exactly. We can see it. The world can see it. It's incredibly obvious, and you're going to have to come up with a much, much better excuse than rolling out Harari and saying, oh, we should use money that trusts. Like, no, dude, like try to justify inflation. Try with a well-informed populace. Good luck. That's what I would say.
Nico, you're such an extremist, bro. Trust the experts. What's wrong with you? Think about my roads, bro. Come on.
I mean, I don't think I would be such an extremist if it wasn't for the fact that I didn't see, the lack of opportunity that people of my generation have, the lack of upward mobility, the lack of their ability to buy their first homes. If I wasn't on a Bitcoin standard, like I would be totally royally effed right now. Like Bitcoin literally was, and it's not like I did anything crazy. It's not like I, won a lottery or something like that. No, I've just been saving in Bitcoin. And when you save in Bitcoin, life gets progressively cheaper. And if life gets progressively cheaper, that means it becomes more affordable. Right. So, I mean, like, dude, like,
well, Nico, it's like that meme, like who radicalized you? And it's like, you did.
Exactly. Right. That meme, it's like, and then it's like the NPC, and then the NPC like gets pissed off or something. Anyways, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Orange Pill app. Find local Bitcoiners, events, and merchants. You could do this by downloading the Orange Pill app today. They are the Bitcoin social layer. Join the 10,137 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. It's a great Bitcoiner only resource. So if you want to connect with other Bitcoiners geographically that are close to you, if you're traveling, you went to a new city, this is a great resource. It's probably a good idea to build up that Bitcoiner Rolodex, because I believe Bitcoiners are going to be some of the most powerful, influential people in the next 5 to 10 years. Opti and I, our DMs are open. If you download the Orange Pill app, you could send us a message and we take the time to answer each and every single one of you guys. So download the Orange Pill app today. You can go to orangepillapp.com, or you could scan the QR code currently on the video. Anyways, everybody, let's move on to the culture.
The Daily Culture.
I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Kaboom Rex. They are the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. They have a very special sale going on right now. It's called Instant Hosting. That's right. You could start mining Bitcoin today after your first initial payment goes through. You could start hosting an S19K Pro 120 terahashes. There's a one-time payment of $2,466 per the machine, then $160 per month for the hosting and the electricity costs. Your hash rate goes online after your payment is confirmed. You own the miner. This is not a hash rate contract. The equipment is already online, so you'll be mining very, very quickly. The price includes a 3-month security deposit and first month, and the hosting is priced at a low rate of 0.079 kilowatt hour. So guys, if you want to start hosting almost immediately, check out Kaboom Rex today. You can scan the QR code, or you could check the link in the video description. Opti?
Let's go. Okay, guys. So I think we're gonna have a great discussion here. So Nate, I'm going to give you the floor. I know you have a story you want to tell. So Nate, formerly of 99 Bitcoins, a fellow Bitcoin content creator, but he just recently departed, and you wanted to tell the whole story. So I'll just give you the floor, bro, and you could take it from here.
Opti and Nico, thank you so much for letting me do this, because it's been a couple of months now. And if you've taken a look at 99 Bitcoin's YouTube channel, it's a lot different. And I need to start from the beginning and say, for those of you who met me either in Miami in 21 or in Miami in 23, I had to explain to you guys, I never owned 99 Bitcoins. I was literally orange pilled on a teleprompter, because the owner of 99 Bitcoins, the founder of 99 Bitcoins, picked me up as a spokesperson, gave me the scripts, and I was literally reading this thing about Bitcoins. Thanks, Mike. Literally reading about Bitcoin on the teleprompter as I'm doing these videos. And I needed to find out more and more about it. Well, fortunately, Ophir, who was the owner at the time, kept giving me jobs to do, and I kept reading the scripts and kept learning more about Bitcoin, Bitcoin mining, Bitcoin wallets, what happens from send to receive, all of the videos that you're used to seeing me on 5 and 6 years ago. Well, as of about 3 or 4 years ago, he was in the process of the exit strategy. That's what entrepreneurs do. That's fine. I knew that this wasn't going to be the full-time job for me until I retire anyway. So I took it in stride. And every time he told me, yeah, it's up for sale, we're talking to somebody, but I don't think it's going to happen. And that happened for about 3 years until this last March. He said, this thing, I think that's really going to happen this time. And so he's been really careful about putting this together and making sure that he's going to have that the 99 Bitcoins brand is going to continue being the neutral, informative site that it always has been. What that tells me, if you put 2 + 2 together, is that the people that sat down at the negotiating table with him were not being upfront and honest with him when they were talking about what they were going to do. I penciled in another 18 months with 99 Bitcoins, and that was the week before March 11th. And I'm getting ready to do the news like I always do. And then the first video came out on 99 Bitcoins with the new owners, and they were shilling shit coins like nobody's business. And so I called Ophir. I said, I can't do this. I can't. I know I'm making a significant amount of money by doing what I'm doing, but I can't show my face in any Bitcoin venue and represent a channel that is now actively shilling projects that are going to be rug pulls. So that's what happened. And actually, when Ophir found out what they were going to do with it, he was not happy. And so nobody that's at the original 99 Bitcoins staff or founding is happy with how everything happened. And so I decided to step away. And what was really great is that the fans from 99 Bitcoins, as I saw the comments on my last video and on the videos that were there afterwards, because the first video was like, did this channel get hacked? What happened? I said, how did they allow that to happen? It's like, where'd Nate go? And so it was those comments that made me recognize this fan base. I hate to use the word, but this loyal following deserves to have what we presented continue to happen, because you, as that loyal audience, are still looking for a place to send new people that you're orange pilling to for solid news about Bitcoin. And that's what I've chosen to do with the Bitcoin Effect. And I've been getting a lot of comments from those who finally found me, because there was no way for them to find me, because I left 99 Bitcoins without a video, without a transition, never had a conversation with anybody. And so literally starting from scratch has been quite the task, but it's been the encouragement in the comments that I've been seeing every week with the new videos that has kept me going. So that's the story. I never owned 99 Bitcoins. I was a spokesperson, and basically with the new ownership, thinking that I was going to be doing the same thing, but once they did what they did, I just couldn't. So that's why it's Bitcoin only on the Bitcoin Effect, and that's my stance.
Love it, bro.
Absolutely. I mean, dude, like, it's unfortunate, right? Because, and again, like, you were getting millions of views, right? For some of and like getting 1 million views on YouTube is very difficult, right? It was a little bit different back then, right? Because it wasn't as competitive as it is today.
Right.
But at the same time, like, like that's millions of people that were influenced by your content in a positive way. And that's unfortunate. And I was just taking a look at the channel. They have completely gone down the, I don't like to talk negatively of other content creators, but they've gone down the altcoin path. And I'm also looking at their performance as well. Like, it hasn't really been resonating with their audience. And I don't think it would, because if you built an entire channel and community based on Bitcoin only, and all of a sudden you're taking a completely different stance in turn, right? It's like that community that you built, that you built over the years. It's very difficult to do, everybody. they're looking at that. They're like, what is going on? What is this? This is gnarly. This is nuts. Right. So
it was
yeah.
nuts. And the one thing I want to clarify that though, Nico, is that we didn't necessarily do just Bitcoin only stuff, but what we did is we presented what projects were or what exchanges were in a way that you didn't know what position I held after the video was done. And that was the idea. Nobody knew that I was Bitcoin only. Nobody knew that from 99 Bitcoins. I mean, if you saw the Bitcoin Effect from before and you saw the interviews that I did kind of as a haphazard hobby, then you'll know that's my bent. And now I get to say, hey, here at the Bitcoin Effect, we're about Bitcoin. And I've always been about Bitcoin, but being a contractor with another company forced me to stay in my lane. And I don't have to stay in that lane anymore. I can say exactly what I feel about what these other projects are, do, and or what they do or don't do, and say, listen, Bitcoin is the best money that has ever been engineered by mankind. And this is how it works, why it works, and why it's going to change how we not only do business, but how we interact with one another in the future.
Absolutely. Opti, what's your take on all this, brother?
Yeah, well, first off, I asked Nate this before the show, and he brought it up as well, as like he got orange pilled on a teleprompter, and I just find that absolutely amazing. And really what I want to talk about, especially considering your new project and what we try to do here at Simply Bitcoin as well, and what we've noticed in the last couple of years of just the importance of Bitcoin only content out there and showing up every day. And I even told this to Nate earlier, and Nico kind of mentioned as well, like we never try to talk smack on other content creators, because I think few people really understand how hard it is to make content every single day and show up every single week. And so, kudos to you, Nate, for just like taking it on the chin, starting your own channel, or rather rebooting your old channel, and then being like, look, I'm going to grind this out because I think it's super important. So maybe just touch on that idea of like, why is it so important to make Bitcoin only content and continue to just grind it out, even though you had so much success in the past with another company?
I'm really 100% Bitcoin. And the reason for that is because there's nothing like, I can't even see another company or investment that I would put my value in that's going to keep my value or grow my value any better than Bitcoin will over the next 10 years. And I'm a Gen Xer. So 10 years means I'm getting pretty close to where I shouldn't be doing a heck of a lot more after that anyway. It's just, there's no way that we cannot understate. You can't overstate the importance of being able to have the value in your own hands. And Nico, you've said it over and over again, and I'll just echo it. You have to self-custody your Bitcoin. You have to self-custody your Bitcoin, because if you don't, if you leave it on an exchange, or if you leave it with an ETF, or if you leave it with any custodian whatsoever, then you are at risk to their values. Let me say that again. You are at risk to somebody else's values when you leave your money in their hands. That's the importance of Bitcoin. That's part of what I'm going to offer at the Bitcoin Effect. How does that affect us socioeconomically? How does that affect us politically? How does that affect us as a community? And what does that look like under a Bitcoin standard? That's what I'm going to delve into in the Bitcoin Effect, just even past the weekly news articles that I'm going to continue to do from a neutral perspective about Bitcoin.
Love it, man. Love it. Okay, let's I'll pull up the YouTube real quick, and then you can kind of go over what your schedule would be like. I know you're a one-man team right now, so you're going to be grinding it out, but what can people expect over here on the Bitcoin Effect?
Well, it looks like a one-man team right now, because I've got a lot to do as far as the graphics on top, and just my picture there, I was probably scaring people away. But but what I really wanted to do was offer thumbnails that looked similar to, but an upgrade from what we were doing over at 99 Bitcoins. Those are the old ones, but don't scroll that. Don't do that.
There's Nico. There's Nico.
Sorry. He and I had a conversation a couple of years ago too, and I was glad to have that. But these are the news that are happening every week. And right here from this studio, I'll also be doing things about how to self-custody, how to take money directly from your bank account into cold storage through the companies that are offering that now. What does it mean to what does it mean to spend your Bitcoin? And let's face it, somebody on your team was doing a short, and they said Michael Saylor's got it almost quite right, but not quite there, because if you're 100% Bitcoin, that means you're going to have to spend your money on your life. And that was a great take. I loved it because it's true. And you have companies that you're able to take your Bitcoin and make it so that you can buy things in the world with the value that you've stored. Yes, you're going to have to go make it again, but that's what life is all about. But it makes it so that you are much less likely to just spend because you know that your money is losing value. This money doesn't lose value. And so if I don't have to spend it, I know that value is still there, if not in greater value, when I finally do go to spend it.
Absolutely. 100%, man. Well, guys, go check out the Bitcoin Effect on YouTube. Opti has the channel pulled up. Go check out this channel. Support fellow Bitcoin content creators. I love that handle that you're able to get, Bitcoin Effect. You can go search it on YouTube, subscribe. And there's not a lot of us. You would think that there's a lot of us, but there's not a lot of Bitcoin only content out there. So support other Bitcoiners that do this. It's incredibly important, especially if you want to push that Bitcoin only signal. Opti?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. And usually at the end, we give the guests the opportunity. What's the last message you want to leave with the audience? And it could be about following you or just Bitcoin in general. What's the last message you want to get across to the audience?
The one thing that Bitcoin does for all of us is it allows us to have the values and, most importantly, speak the values that we have without worrying about somebody confiscating our property because of what we say. That is the American value. That's why that is the First Amendment. And I know that you have viewers that are from other countries, but being an American and knowing that the opportunity to express myself and my values shouldn't have any censorship, especially with the value that I've created with my ideas and my labor. And that's what discourse should be.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that you can't really have, you could have had a version of that, but it's not really the version that we would want as Americans without Bitcoin. Bitcoin enables that type of discourse. Bitcoin enables that type of sovereignty. Bitcoin enables that type of freedom. Without Bitcoin, I don't think it's possible, right? So I think it's incredibly, incredibly important. So anyways, Nate, love to have you on the show today. Guys, go check out his channel and yeah. Anyways, getting to the top of the hour here. Guys, if you enjoyed today's show, make sure to smash that like button. Consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin if you feel like we provided you value. But the number one thing you could do to help push the peaceful Bitcoin revolution forward is share this type of content. Share Bitcoin content in general. That's what we got to do. And buckle up, because I think I still think we have this crazy year or two in front of us. Things are heating up politically. So yeah, it's never been a better time to buy Bitcoin, put it into self-custody, spread that Bitcoin signal. And this week, like I said, we're going to be traveling. So we'll be back tomorrow for the live show. Then we'll be in Canada starting Wednesday. I think we'll be doing the show from Canada on Wednesday. And we'll be there for the Canadian Bitcoin conference, which is going to be freaking awesome. And we're going to be live streaming the conference for you guys starting Friday. So it's going to be a great show, great rest of the week. And we'll be getting you guys interviews, panels, all that good stuff that you guys like. And we'll be back tomorrow for a brand new episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. I'm your host, Nico. It's my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields, and our guest today, Nate Martin. All right, everybody, take it easy.
This episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, on a mission to enable independence.